The world was not supposed to see this. Yet somehow, in a moment that wasn't meant for the public eye, a grainy but unmistakably authentic recording surfaced, and it shook the very foundation of the BTS fandom. There, in a dimly lit studio room in London, long after midnight, BTS's Jin was caught on camera, alone, seated at a grand piano. No audience, no stage lights, no fanfare, just him, practicing, relentlessly, silently, passionately. Why would a global superstar still push himself to this limit, just hours before his historic solo concert at the O2 Arena? That single, unguarded moment, when his fingers trembled slightly over the keys before pouring into a raw, emotional rendition of an unknown melody, is now burning across fan communities, forcing armies and the world to ask, what kind of pressure must he be facing? What is driving Jin BTS to rehearse in silence, in solitude, while the city sleeps? This was not a staged, behind-the-scenes promo. This was not a performance dressed up for cameras. The leaked footage, reportedly captured unintentionally by a background technician and later deleted, reveals a level of artistic obsession and vulnerability rarely seen from someone of Jin's status. The quiet intensity of his body language spoke louder than any press release. He was not smiling. He was not seeking attention. He was fighting against doubt, against time, and possibly against fear. London has become the center of global attention since Jin's arrival for what is now officially confirmed as the largest solo event ever held at the O2 by a Korean artist. Armies from over 72 countries are flooding the capital. Thousands are camping outside the venue, streets are jammed, and local authorities have been on high alert for days. Yet, in the midst of this chaos and anticipation, Jin chose to isolate himself and go back to the basics: music, practice, and discipline. The piano piece he was playing has not been identified. It's unclear whether it was an original composition, an unreleased track, or simply a personal improvisation. But what stunned many who analyzed the clip was not the song itself. It was how he played it. There was pain in the notes. There was silence between chords that felt heavier than applause. Jin wasn't rehearsing a routine. He was building a wall around his emotions, pouring every ounce of himself into the keys as if to convince himself he is worthy of what awaits tomorrow night. But why now? Why rehearse alone at midnight, away from his team and stage crew? Why would someone who's already sold out a stadium feel the need to prove something? And to whom? Speculations have begun to circulate online. Some say Jin is battling immense pressure not to fail in front of his international audience. Others believe he is haunted by the expectation of representing BTS's legacy as the first to re-enter the world stage post-military service. There is also growing concern among fans that Jin may be struggling to cope with the emotional toll of performing without the other members beside him. The situation is even more complex when considered alongside recent interviews in which Jin hinted at his desire to perfect everything for London, referring to the city as a place where the world watches you without mercy. In that context, the midnight piano session becomes less about preparation and more about survival, artistic, emotional, and mental. Even without any formal confirmation, the recording has sent shockwaves throughout the BTS fanbase, especially among armies in London. Several fans who claim to have witnessed Jin leaving the venue late that night described him as exhausted but focused. One eyewitness said, "He didn't look at anyone. He just walked straight into the night, like he was still inside the music." What is perhaps most haunting about the leak is its intimacy. It stripped away the global star image and left only the man, a man who, despite standing at the peak of success, still chooses to retreat into solitude to polish his craft. And that image has left armies worldwide reeling. Is this what greatness demands? The absence of rest? The silent wars fought alone? Or is this something deeper, a fear of disappointing the very people who've stood by him all these years? Fans online are divided. Some see this as a heroic testament to Jin's work ethic, a symbol of his commitment to artistry and perfection. Others express concern, wondering if this is a cry for help masked behind discipline. "We want him to shine, but not burn," wrote one army on X. "This footage broke me. He deserves rest." London, meanwhile, is waking up to headlines not about the size of Jin's show, but about the cost of it. The emotional toll, the weight of being the first, the pressure of making history alone, and with every hour closer to the concert, the meaning of that midnight piano practice grows heavier. It is no longer just a rehearsal. It is a reminder that behind every flawless performance lies the battle no one sees. That behind every superstar is a person who fights, quietly, when the world stops looking, as the sun rises over the O2 Arena, and as the stage lights begin their final checks, one question remains unanswered. Was that practice session a sign of greatness or a warning? Whatever it was, one thing is clear: Jin BTS is not taking any chances. Not with London, not with his music, not with the legacy he carries on his shoulders. And now the world will be watching, not just to see him perform, but to understand why he fought so hard, in silence, when no one was supposed to see. The footage in question, the midnight piano session of BTS's Jin, continues to spark a whirlwind of emotion and speculation. The weight of the scene, its rawness and apparent sincerity, has mesmerized millions. But as this story spreads like wildfire across TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and digital news outlets, we must now confront a far more difficult but necessary question. Are we truly witnessing an unfiltered moment of artistic vulnerability, or are we merely consuming a carefully constructed illusion designed to manipulate emotional investment? In an age dominated by virality, where the line between authenticity and performance has become perilously thin, can we really trust what we see? That dimly lit room, that grainy video, the unseen camera angle. How do we know it wasn't staged? How do we know it wasn't meant to be leaked? Or worse, what if the entire narrative has been orchestrated down to the timing of the clip's discovery in order to ignite emotional engagement right before one of the most anticipated solo performances in BTS history? And yet, the emotions we felt watching it were real, weren't they? This is where critical thinking must take precedence. We must ask, who benefits from the circulation of such footage? What impact does it have on public perception of Jin, especially in the context of his return to the global stage as the first BTS member to complete military service? Does the leak generate sympathy, inspire admiration, create a heightened sense of urgency around his concert in London? Or is it a mix of all of the above, carefully engineered to reframe him not merely as a performer, but as a struggling artist overcoming invisible battles? These are not accusations, but essential provocations. As consumers of content in a media-saturated world, our role is no longer passive. We are not just audiences, we are amplifiers. We are participants in the very machine that manufactures the mythos of celebrity. So what if we've been made to feel something not because it's true, but because someone wanted us to feel it? We must confront the possibility that this footage, as moving as it was, may not be what it claims to be. The camera was positioned at a peculiar angle, too steady for a random capture. The lighting, although dim, was atmospheric. The sound quality, surprisingly clear for a so-called leak. These details matter. They beg to be analyzed. Could this be part of a larger media strategy? Is this moment of solitude actually part of a carefully plotted build-up to evoke empathy and urgency among fans? Moreover, What does it say about us, the audience, that we are so quick to absorb content like this without questioning its origins? Are we complicit in the machinery of spectacle when we choose to share it, celebrate it, and let it go viral? What responsibility do we hold in demanding the truth, not just from the media, but from ourselves? Let us also acknowledge the power of emotional storytelling. Whether this moment was genuine or manufactured, it succeeded in moving millions. It triggered reflection, admiration, and even concern. Fans began trending hashtags overnight. Some wept, others created digital tributes. The world felt something collective. But should emotional resonance be the only currency for truth, it is also worth noting that none of the major agencies involved have released official statements verifying or denying the authenticity of the clip. This silence only deepens the ambiguity. In this vacuum of verification, speculation breeds and thrives. What started as a leaked video has now evolved into a full-blown narrative, one that may not be grounded in verifiable fact. But in the realm of fandom, does fact even matter anymore? Still, we must not shy away from skepticism. Skepticism is not cynicism. It is responsibility. It is the ability to question while remaining open, to demand clarity without denying emotion. And in this case, skepticism is essential that we invite you, the reader, the viewer, the army, to pause, to reflect, to ask yourselves the hard questions. Do you believe that what you saw was real? Or do you believe it was constructed? If this footage had never surfaced, would your anticipation for the London concert have felt the same? Are we chasing truth? Or are we addicted to the illusion of truth, especially when wrapped in the face of someone we admire, at a time when algorithms feed us exactly what we want to feel, and when media narratives can be shaped in seconds? The challenge is no longer distinguishing truth from lies, but recognizing when our hearts are being led before our minds can catch up. This article is based on reports, trends, and user-generated content circulating across various platforms, including social media posts, live stream comments, and viral videos. However, we must emphasize that the authenticity of this information is still under scrutiny. The footage, while compelling, has not been verified by any independent source. No production credits.
No timestamp. No reliable metadata.
These omissions are not minor. Therefore, we urge all readers to treat this story not as absolute truth, but as a phenomenon worth dissecting, emotionally, socially, and critically. Let this moment become a turning point not just for how we view Jin, but for how we engage with media in general. Let it be a reminder that in a world where even tears can be commodified, the most powerful act is to think before we feel too deeply, and in doing so, we return the power not to those who craft the narrative, but to those who dare to question it.